Hello Drive Radio fans, Richard Rush here today with my good friend Walt McLean behind the camera. And today we're going to take a look at the 2016 Mini Cooper S Clubman. For those of you that follow our channel, you'll know that we reviewed about a month ago just a standard Mini Cooper Clubman, not the S. The main difference with the S is a bigger engine, which we'll get into here in just a bit. They've done some exterior refined stylings. The two front seats are sport seats with adjustable thigh support in there, but that's really all the difference. Everything else about this car is actually pretty much the same, albeit some different options on it, and we'll go over those as we get into the review. So this will be a shorter review just because you've already kind of seen a lot of it if you follow this, and if you haven't, take a look at the link in our sidebar and you'll be able to find that, as well as on our channel you can find all of our other reviews. But again, what's new for 2016 for the Mini Cooper Clubman? Actually everything. It's fully redesigned, and I've actually got a cheat sheet here. I want to make sure I get my facts right for those of you who didn't watch the other review. It's a larger four-door model. It's 10 inches longer, 3 inches wider, and it's got a 4-inch longer wheelbase than before. It is definitely a larger car than its, I guess you could say, its cousin or sibling, however you want to say it, just the standard Mini Cooper. I've actually got a family member, a cousin, that has an older version of the Cooper that's a little bit smaller, has a little bit different features on it. This is definitely more for if you're going to put more cargo in here, you want to put a full-size adults in the back seat, whatever it is, the Clubman definitely is an option for you, while, in my opinion, still maintaining the integrity that the Mini Cooper is known for. So with that, let's actually we'll come into the front here view, and then we'll take a walk around it, and we're just going to kind of continue right along with this review. Again, you can see the front styling, these awesome headlights that they put in here. The S badging that I mentioned right there, again, is particularly and specific to the Mini Cooper S model. A few more different things while we are going around the vehicle right now. The S has the more powerful engine. I forgot to mention, has the 17 inches wheels, the extra styling, fog lamps, and the front sport seats, which I mentioned. Some different options, and this isn't just for the Clubman, this is for the Mini in general, but just for the Clubman, whether it's the S or the standard Clubman, you can get adaptive suspension dampeners, rear parking sensors, panoramic sunroof, black or white hood stripes, 12-speaker sound system, and that's just to name a few. This car is literally limitless in terms of how you can customize it and what that looks like. There are thousands of different combinations that you can put on here in terms of this vehicle. And some of you are going to say, well, what is the price of this vehicle? And you'll see it's relatively well equipped on the inside, pretty much what anyone would want on this vehicle. And it's actually, this car as it sits right here is $37,000. If you were to add more options on it, you could get it above 40, but that's kind of its peak, is right there at the low 40s. But again, someone's going to say, wow, that's a really high price for the car. Well, depending on what your styling is, maybe you want a little luxury, British luxury, you can say, this may be the car for you. So with that, we're actually just going to roll right into the review. These are the double swing doors, which is the staple of the Clubman rather than the hatch that opens. I can either hit both buttons right here on the handles, or I've got the key fob, and I'll show you what that looks like. Hold it, it will open one, and if I hold it again, it will open the other side. You can get, again, I want to make sure my facts are straight here, you can get 17.5 cubic feet of cargo room, and Walt, if you can kind of come up here and show them, 17.5 cubic feet of cargo room with the seats up, with the seats down, and actually I will show you they fold flat, so let me show you that really quick. So you can see with the seats folded flat, 47.9 cubic feet with both seats folded down, which is a tremendous amount of room. My wife and I were actually moving this past weekend, and moving from an apartment into a house, got an insane amount of boxes in here that you would not normally expect to be able to get out of such a little car. In terms of performance, before we get around to the back seat here, I mentioned that bigger engine. Well, what is in that bigger engine? It's a 2-liter rather than a, let me make sure I have it right, rather than a 1.5 liter, it's a 4-cylinder rather than a 3-cylinder, and it comes with 189 horsepower rather than 134 horsepower. 6-speed manual transmission is standard. However, on this Clubman, you have the ability to get a 8-speed automatic transmission, which I don't really know how well it works. Read and heard a lot of good things about it, but just something to keep in mind. So with that, well, why don't we kind of come around here? We'll show you what the back seat portion of the vehicle looks like here really quick. And again, we'll show you this on the interior. Really love this color. It's really beautiful in my opinion. As you slide in, as you can see, this is set for about a 5'9", 5'10" driver myself and my dad. I still got plenty of leg room. If you did want to put your legs closer together, you'd have even more with these indentations right here. Really nice and handy. You do have 2 vents along with the power port down below. And Walt, if you can kind of get a close-up of this apportionments on the side, really just nice fine-tune. Love what they've done. They've added a nice levels of kind of some bling, you can say, along with some nice modest leather soft touch right here. One other thing, as I'll point out right here, is the door plate, or the door step, you could say. This is part of the John Cooper package, the John Cooper Works package. We'll show you more in the front seat. It's a little bit larger of a badge. And one other thing, once you're done with that, what we'll show them is the panoramic sunroof, which is on this vehicle actually. And you can, it's a shade, you just push that forward and you have the ability to pull or push it all the way forward, and it's just a screen. It doesn't go back any at all, but this is nice for your back seat passengers. So with that being said, we'll hop into the front seat and then we'll go for a drive on the 2016 Mini Cooper S Clubman. All right, fans, we're here for the front seat portion before we head on a drive of the 2016 Mini Cooper S Clubman. We're going to show you the front seat real quick. So Walt, why don't you kind of come in this direction? You can see the door apportionments for the front door. Very easy to, very easy on the eyes. Nice soft touch materials. Really like what they've done. You can see the door plate that I mentioned before right there. The John Cooper Works, that is an add-on package for this vehicle. These nice sport seats, which is for the S model. Some nice suede along with some nice leather and the nice stitching. I love this. You do have the thigh support, so you can push that out farther, and as you want to bring it back in, you can do that. This is not powered. It is a manual, manually used or manually shifted, you could say, front sport seat. So something to keep in mind as we kind of get into the vehicle and you come a little closer. We mentioned this before. There's definitely, it's almost like a little British spy car feel to this car. Nice carbon fiber right here. This front gauge, we'll show you in the driving portion, all of this lights up, but all of the different switches and toggles that are down here just makes this really kind of a fun little car, fun little thing to drive. It really is a blast. In that you've got automatic wipers, automatic headlights, a lot of different features on here, start and stop functionality. As I mentioned before, this is the 6-speed manual. You have your toggle switch on and off there. A system, excuse me, very similar to BMW's iDrive. For those of you that know, they are the one and the same, essentially, BMW and Mini. But overall, really a fun car to drive. There's not a whole lot else to show you on the interior. So with that, gonna have Walt hop in the back seat. We're gonna take a quick drive and we'll give you our opinion of the 2016 Mini Cooper S Clubman. All right, fans, here we are for the driving portion. Again, 2016 Mini Cooper S Clubman. As we mentioned before, there's a very similar review of this car without the S. A lot of the interior apportionments are the exact same, but just wanted to show you, before we got on the driving, a few of those different things. As I mentioned before, this lights up depending on what you're doing. For example, if you're in telephone, this will actually switch colors as you're driving and such to let you know what mode you're in. I don't believe it'll do it while you're in the sitting position. So again, as you're driving, this will actually change, but I want to be able to make sure I can show you the different features as we go. Dual climate control, heated seats, you do have AC, start and stop functionality, which works relatively well on the manual. You have to be at a stoplight, you have to have the transmission in neutral, and you have to take your foot off of the clutch. So something to keep in mind, not a huge thing. I'm just not sure how quite effective it is for those of you who are familiar with driving a manual at every single stoplight or whatever it is, to take your foot all the way out of the clutch and leave it in neutral. I like to at least leave it in gear and leave my foot on the clutch at a stoplight on the brake in case something happens. I need to move out of the way quickly. But other than that, it does have a little cool, not even flip up, but raise up heads up display. It's hard to see. Trust me, it is active. It shows a lot of different pieces of information there. The gauge cluster right up front is really cool, very British feeling. but it's a really, really nice touch in my opinion. Nice big dial right here. Your tachometer over here is really easy to use, really easy to operate, and you have a lot of information over here along with your feel on this side of things. So with that, we'll actually take a quick drive. There you can get this infotainment screen in different sizes. This is the larger of the two of the sizes. You have no physical tune knob, but a lot of that can be handled with the iDrive. I'm calling it the iDrive. I know it's not the iDrive system because that's what BMW is, but it's a very similar system to use and to operate. And you have 3 modes that you can be in. You can either be in green, and you'll notice that this switches. You can be in green, the mid mode, which is just your typical mini mode, or you can be in the sport mode, goes red. It redefines, it almost makes it a little bit more rocket ship, and we'll actually get into that during the driving. But before we do that, let's show you what the rear view camera looks like. As you can see, you do have the dynamic grid lines, which is what we like to call it. Gonna go back here and see, it shows you where you're gonna go, how close you're gonna get to a curve. One thing I can say with the Mini that's an absolute treat to drive is parking this thing is a relative breeze considering how the size of this vehicle and how well it works. In our opinion, works really, really well. Again, you can get rear parking sensors, and a lot of that is optional. One last thing before we do get moving, Walt, want to show them the sunroof and what it looks like when we open it up. It'll open up the sunlight, and you can move it back all from your toggle switch up here, but for right now, for lighting purposes, actually, what's better, Walt? Is it better with it back like that, or is it better with it here? Okay, so actually it's better with it there, so we'll just keep it open like that. You can probably see me a little bit better. So we'll take a quick drive. As we're driving, I will let you be quiet here in just a second as we get to our infamous bumps and hills that those of you are familiar with know that we handle a lot. And you'll see how relatively quiet it is in here. Again, you're sitting low to the ground, and there's not a lot of air or dampening technology on here right now, but it's still relatively quiet, so I'll be quiet really quick. And I can say with great confidence, you can have a very easygoing conversation with it. I had my wife in it. We took a trip this past weekend, or not a trip, but just went to the south part of Denver, and very easy to see, very easy to operate. One thing, and actually I'm gonna put it into sport mode here really quick, and we're gonna let it get going. And this thing will put you into the back of your seat with ease. One thing I will say, and I'm not sure what the correct terminology for it is, but it has what, and I know, I guess we drove a car with it this past year, kind of a rev matching. And so what, or rev matching, I guess, is the best way to say it. What that means is when you're going to go to downshift to go around a corner, instead of having to rev up the engine like you normally would, it actually does that for you. You don't have to worry about, as you get up here and it's a stoplight, I'll actually go up to this corner and see if I can get the car to do it. But you don't have to worry about revving up the engine, the RPMs, to meet the gear that you're going down to. It will automatically do all that for you. So we're in third right now, and you can, it's hard to hear, but you can actually hear the car will rev up. So you can put it into second, let your foot off the clutch, and you don't get that reverberating feedback that you get a lot of the time out of a lot of these cars. And for those of you that are new to driving stick shifts, or maybe just it takes a while to get used to that kind of rev matching feature, or being able to do that on your own, it's definitely a cool feature that BMW, that Mini does have. Again, a really cool feature as you are driving, that this switches. So I went to telephone mode right there. I'll go to navigation, it will go to green. I believe I go to media and radio, and it will go to orange. Right here, you go to the menu, and it stays in whatever color it is. So if you need to go to settings, again, it goes to a green. Really cool. Again, it's just this nice subtle feature, and a lot of you are going to say, well, who cares about that in a car? And the honest answer, electronic parking brake as well, is probably not a lot of people, but for me, I thought it was a really cool feature. So with that being said, what do we think of this car, the Mini Cooper S Clubman? Would we get the S, or would we get the Mini Cooper, just the standard Cooper? You're gonna have to be the judge. Again, not a lot of interior styling differences. The main thing is the bigger engine. What can I tell you about the bigger engine? Actually, I'm gonna get it so my facts are right now. Actually, I'll tell you what our real world was. I was able to average 31 miles per gallon. It's rated for, in this standard 6-speed manual, front wheel drive for 24 and 34, so 27 combined, and I was able to average 31. And for those of you know me or that know our past reviews, I have a lead foot, and so with my dad driving, he was actually closer to that 34. He drives like a grandpa, and he also has a 34 mile, or he also does a lot more highway driving. So is it worth it in terms of the bigger engine? I personally think it is. I love the bigger engine, nearly 200 horsepower. You can zoom around. Some people will say, well, with the Clubman, you know, you're still going to be more sluggish because you have a few hundred more pounds. You do, which is why I would recommend the upgraded 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Again, that almost 200 horsepower really makes a difference, especially at our altitude. It allows you to get up, go. And then I mentioned just a second ago in the driving portion, this car will put you back into the seat whenever you need it to. And just really, really fun to drive. I don't know how else to say it. What are some cons on this car? Size-wise, if you're bigger, if you're larger, again, I have my buddy Walt in the back seat right now who probably hates me. He's about 6'3", 6'4", and he's got to kind of tilt his head a little bit as he's in the back seat. So something to consider. If you're doing a lot of cargo moving or you've got some kids and such, probably not the best car for you. It's just not made for that. As far as what does it not do well and stuff, I'd like to maybe see some different things, some blind spot technology, maybe some other better safety mitigation features on it in terms of frontal collision warning, and I may be missing that, so I apologize if I am, or maybe it's something that Mini's going to come out with in the future. I do know that BMW on some of those other cars has that capability of being able to do that. So, but that's my opinion, again, of the 2016 BMW Mini Cooper S Clubman. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them. And if you want to learn more about this vehicle, head to your local Mini dealership and tell them that John and Richard Rush from Drive Radio sent you.